this country? Anybody here spent many happy days in the tax office? I know. It's an experience you wouldn't mind foregoing, right? Every time you deal with any part of the government bureaucracy, you have to fill out forms. You wouldn't object if those forms disappeared. Maybe if you just had a... Well, India, for example, is now moving to a system, combination of photo ID and retinal scan, biometric markers, so that you just get a quick retinal scan, and whatever government bureaucracy it is you're dealing with, land title, taxation, healthcare, it knows who you are. So you never have to fill out your name and address ever again. No more paperwork.
It's kind of creepy.
Anybody here know somebody who's going around with a misspelled name because a government bureaucrat couldn't spell? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know several people like that. Well, humans make mistakes. Humans are fallible. We can actually build systems which are more reliable, better, and cheaper. So government bureaucrats, as we now know them, are like, they're going to be like the dinosaurs. They will perish from this earth, and I don't think they'll be very sorely missed. Paralegals. A lot of, if you live, as we do, in a country that has common law, a great deal of what you pay for when you hire a lawyer is not for the expensive lawyer. That money goes to cover the cost of paralegals who have to search all of the documentation to find precedent. There are lawyers in the States now who are using semantic recognition software which can actually find all the precedents for you far more accurately and in less time. We won't need paralegals anymore. Fighter pilots, Tom Cruise, Top Gun, redundant. Thing of the past. Being replaced by unmanned combat aerial vehicles, also known as drones. The first generation, second generation drones were basically propeller-engined aircraft. The new generation are in fact fully fledged fighter aircraft for aerial combat, and there's no human on board. They are much more fearsome than fighter aircraft with humans on board. Simple reason that the human operator places very severe limits on the functional capacity of the aircraft. You can't subject the human frame to much more than about 5 gravities for a very short space of time, or we disintegrate. If you take the pilot out of the aircraft, you can make the aircraft go through turns that would subject the occupant to 13, 14 gravities. So once you take the human occupant out of the aircraft, it becomes very much more dangerous, much more maneuverable. So a number of air forces now are looking to replace all of their fighter pilots with unmanned combat aerial vehicles. And the US Army in particular is also developing a new generation of combat-capable robots which will replace soldiers in many applications, happening on the ground as well. Jobs based on information asymmetries, real estate brokers, travel agents, thing of the past. The guy who buys and sells property, what value are they adding? They're not actually adding value, they're charging you. What are they charging you for? They're charging you because they know one thing that you don't. They know which house is for sale. Or if you're selling, they know where a buyer can be found. That's it. That's the only thing they know. And for that, you pay them a truckload of money. Well, would you like to get these guys out of the equation entirely? We already have software that can match supplier and seller much more accurately. We have online bidding auctions. You can put your house up to auction now. If once you can be assured in the security of the financial transaction, which will also take place online, we can get the real estate brokers out of the system, and the lawyers will lose one of their most lucrative sources of income. We're which I think would be to the greater good of everybody else. That could be very good development. Travel agents. How many people here have ever actually even used the travel agent to book a flight? Still?
Not still, but I have.
Yeah. But how many people now would go online and organise their own itinerary? And it's getting easier and easier now to do it, and in future it'll get even easier. Now this one might surprise you a little bit more.
Oh yes, I heard what
Construction, manufacturing. We're not going to need people to do that anymore. And because that you may not be quite so familiar with the technology that's going to take construction workers and manufacturers out of the equation, let me show you. This is a quote from The Economist saying there will be no need for factories when everybody has a fabricator that can produce items when needed. 3D printing technology is coming and it's likely to disrupt every field of touch.
So I heard that those might be banned though, because apparently people started printing guns.
Yes, they have. People have actually started printing guns with 3D fabricators.
So how are they going to stop you from printing all kind of madness?
Can't be done. Can't be stopped.
Then you have to ban the technology.
Let me show you some things that you can do with fabricators. This is the office model. This is used by architects, designers and engineers. I actually know firms and architects that are now printing building parts, and you can print building parts that would be very difficult to machine. You see, when you machine a part, which is what we do now, guys, you start with a piece of metal, and then you have to bend it and cut off all the bits that you don't want until you're left with the bit that you do want. With a 3D printer, it's completely the opposite process. You're assembling the molecules into a particular structure, and it's only the structure that you need. There is no waste with a 3D fabricator. This is an example of something that is actually printed with a 3D printer, and this has moving parts. You can actually print things that come out the printer and actually have moving parts. And the really elegant design, think about this for a little, guys. You can load a design into a 3D printer to make it print a 3D printer. So we can, these devices actually can be self-replicated. And people have said, well, we could, in principle now, send a mission to another planet, unload a 3D printer, which assembles more 3D printers from the sand that it finds when it gets there. And all it needs is an initial supply of the bonding agent to start gluing the sand together, and it can start making new parts. These are ceramic art objects. The original was scanned with a 3D scanner printer, and the copies were then printed. And this is actually made of ceramic. It's going to be very difficult in future to tell apart art fakes from actual original works of art. In fact, how many artists are we going to need? You only need one original, and then you can start printing your own. In fact, you can just download the design off the internet and start printing your own works of art. You won't have to buy art anymore. So we can close down all the art galleries as well.